The scenario that I chose was the high school scenario of Mr. R, an English teacher, getting ready for the state mandated test with heavy reading and literature. I'm actually experiencing this right now in my middle school, and these are the tools that I'm using that I would suggest Mr. R to help prepare his students for this state standardized test. I have kids of all different types of learning abilities because I teach co-taught classes with SPED kids as well as pre-AP classes. And so I'm having to deal with those different ability levels by bringing in different pieces that are going to help them be able to understand what this test is asking them. So using background knowledge extremely heavily, getting them prepared, getting them familiar with the pieces that they might be reading. A lot of pieces of literature have been turned into movies, so pulling up the trailer and showing them the movie trailer on YouTube, so that way they get a little bit more excited about the certain things that they're reading and just a little bit more familiar with that piece of literature. Kids that have learning disabilities in reading or math, I'm going to give them some strategies of how to break down the question. What is it asking you to do? Annotating the text as you read. The park online, the test that we are taking in Cherry Creek, has practice tests online, and that's actually what we've been doing is we're getting on our Chromebooks in class, and we are practicing using those manipulatives, using those notes, highlighting, annotating, marking a question for review, finishing answering it and then going back to double check, reviewing all of the questions overall once you think you're done. And so just giving them those strategies to help with these heavy pieces of reading that they are going to have to read. Same thing for English language learners, giving them lots of visuals, giving them lots of background information, getting them excited about maybe a piece of literature that they normally wouldn't read. And so I'm kind of with the movie trailers, I'm hoping that is what is getting them excited. I mean, I've had students who, go home over the weekend and then they come back and they're like, what, Miss Johnson, I went home and I watched that movie with my parents, and now I know all about the Count of Monte Cristo or whatever they've watched. And so it's really exciting to see that just a movie trailer can get kids excited about, literature, especially older literature. My kids who come from multicultural backgrounds, they're not always going to have the same background knowledge that I do or that their fellow peer sitting next to them does. So giving them that background knowledge is so important. Telling them what I know about the reading, telling them, I don't know all of this, so let's Google it together. Let's find these answers together. Let's learn about this together. And just showing them the process of how do I go about finding an answer to something I don't know. And so that's just a huge modeling technique that I'm doing the last few days, and just getting them, into the test practices online, the tutorial practices online, making them explore, making them use the manipulatives. So that way when it does become testing time, they already know how to use these tools. They know what they're doing. They're not, infatuated with the highlighting. They're reading because they've already played with the highlighting. They know what that's about. This all does need to be done in class, unfortunately, because students with limited access to technology at home, might not be able to get on and do these practices, do these tutorials. So it is done in class, which is actually better because then I get to model, then I get to give them the background knowledge, the anecdotes that go with it, and it becomes a little bit more fun and visual when I'm adding in pictures and the movie trailers. And so just using my resources around me for this new test that even, I don't even know very much about. And so just trying to give them everything that I know about this test to help them be successful. That's what I'm doing in my middle school classroom, so that is what I would suggest for Mr. R.